Good afternoon. Welcome to the Human Rights Commission meeting for Monday, December 8th. We'll start our meeting with the pledge. Commissioner Aguano, please lead us.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown, would you please read our mission statement?
Certainly. The mission of the Human Rights Commission of Palm Springs is to promote improved human relations, civic peace, intergroup understanding, and the full acceptance, respect, and participation of all persons in all aspects of the community life so that we will be equal in the eyes of each other. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Lee, can we have the roll call?
Commissioner Janis?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Elliott? Here. Commissioner Bowens?
Here.
Commissioner Feingold?
Here.
Commissioner Zelnis?
Here.
Commissioner Catarat?
Here.
Commissioner Aguano?
Here.
And student member Holly Hunt.
Here.
Terrific. We got a full house. Lee, do you have something to tell me about the agenda?
The agenda was posted according to the Brown Act on November 21st. There is one correction in the approval of the minutes that should be for November 10th, 2003. There's a typo there.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we open up the meeting to public comments. Anybody in the audience want to have a comment? You have 3 minutes. Seeing nobody has comments, we'll close that. And we're going to start our meeting off this afternoon with a special, we have 2 awards to give out this afternoon. We call them our Community Service Awards. We like to give this award to local people who have gone beyond what other people in our community do. They help others. And I'm going to turn that part of the meeting over to Commissioner Zelnis. And would you tell us who we're giving the awards to? And then you'll read a little bio of each one, and I have the certificates.
I would be happy to. In fact, most of you know that I usually kind of ad-lib things. I very seldom use notes unless I have something particularly important to say. And today I have something particularly important to say because I take really great pleasure in presenting our 2 awards today to individuals whose contributions to the greater Palm Springs community are sort of like the ever-ready bunny. They just keep going and going and going and going, but without all of the drum beating and cymbals clashing and all of the fanfare, which you're also not going to see today. So don't get your hopes up on that. But we do want to take an opportunity to recognize a couple of gentlemen this time around whose ongoing efforts really are notable, and we want to show our appreciation. The first is Rick Smedstad. Rick, if you'd come up, please. Who I feel is truly one of the unsung heroes of the desert. Rick is a teacher of 30 years, which is a heroic feat unto itself. Today, however, we are recognizing his ongoing work and dedication to an organization called GAY, Gay Associated Youth. Rick began working with GAY in 1991 when the group met for 1 hour a week for support, for friendship at various free locations. He founded the present GAY as a nonprofit charity in June of 1999 and served as president of the board of the newly formed incorporated charity during its first year. In June of 2000, I know this is supposed to be embarrassing, so everybody can look at you. In June of 2000, Rick became GAY's executive director and opened their first drop-in center in Rancho Mirage. The center is now open 7 days a week from 2 to 8 and weekends till 10 for young people throughout the desert. Not only does GAY continue to offer a safe place for social interaction, there's help with homework. They self-produce a monthly literary zine, which for those of us who aren't quite with it, is a monthly magazine put together by the kids with poetry, their writings, graphics, whatever they want to have published in this monthly magazine on a regular basis. And here the kids can get referrals to counseling and medical professionals. They have a film club. They do the San Francisco to LA bike ride, and this year there will be 7 in the ride and 3, as you call them, roadies. The center also offers periodic self-defense workshops as well as yoga classes. They have films on video, video games, and high-speed internet. And of course, GAY does advocacy work in the schools. They sponsor gay proms. I stopped in at the gay prom last spring, and I'll tell you, it looked like they were having a heck of a lot more fun than I had at my senior prom. They do field trips to the Getty Museum, the Museum of Tolerance, and of course the ever-popular Magic Mountain. So it is with great pleasure that I present, or ask our chair to present to Rick Smedstad on behalf of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission our 2003 Certificate of Appreciation.
I'm going to read this to you, Rick. On this day, December 8th, 2003, the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission grants to Rick Smedstad this award of recognition for promoting universal human rights close to home. That's for you, and thank you for all the work you do here. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. And next is a man whose energy also never seems to quit. Father Andrew Green is rector and senior pastor. Come on up, Andrew. Yes, it's your turn to be embarrassed. At the Church of St. Paul in the Desert, where he has served this congregation for the last 15 years. And if this isn't a big enough job, Andrew is also a board member of the Palm Springs Unified School District and vice president of the Desert AIDS Project. Those of us who attend or watch City Council meetings on Channel 17 recognize Andrew Green from his frequent invocations to Council, where he consistently keeps the issue of homelessness before us. And it is for his work on homelessness issues in the desert that we recognize him today. Andrew's involvement with Palm Springs housing issues began when he served for 3 years on the Community Development Block Grant Citizens Advisory Committee. He's been a member of the city's Homeless Task Force since its inception 5 years ago and currently serves as its chair. Andrew participates with the Riverside County Coalition for Housing and Homelessness, a group committed to ending chronic homelessness that includes government agencies, nonprofits, service providers, housing funders, and private citizens. Currently, he chairs the advisory group that structures the work of the coalition. Through his various involvements, Andrew has been active in advocating for and identifying funding sources for several housing and homeless-related programs in both Palm Springs and Cathedral City, including the Casas de San Miguel de Allende apartments, and through the Desert AIDS Project, the Navajo Trails Transitional Housing Program in Cathedral City, the Vista Sunrise Project here in Palm Springs, the Well in the Desert's move to, continuing use of, and expansion of services at the J.C. Fry Building, and on and on. May you continue to shine a light on a part of our life in the desert that for too long has remained in the dark. I serve with Andrew on the Homeless Task Force and am both pleased and honored to have presented to him today, again on behalf of the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission, our 2003 Certificate of Appreciation. Do you want to read it again?
I'll read it. I want Andrew to know that he's getting the same thing. On this day, December 8th, 2003, the City of Palm Springs Human Rights Commission grants to Father Andrew Green this award of recognition for promoting universal human rights close to home. Thanks for all you do, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both, and thank you, Commissioner Zelnus. That was really done great. You did a great job there. We are now going to continue our meeting. We have a special guest speaker today, and Commissioner Janice, will you tell us her name and what she's going to speak about?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. By way of introduction, I'd like to say that Judy Brennan, our speaker for today, holds a certificate in dispute resolution from the University of California, Riverside, and a certificate in arbitration from the Institute of Conflict Management. She's a private practice mediator and a real estate broker. Judy discovered mediation in 1996 when the San Bernardino County Small Claims Center for Dispute Resolution was looking for interested parties to train as mediators. With several hundred hours of training and in-session mediations, her settlement rate is better than 80%. Judy is a court-certified mediator for Riverside County and still serves as mediator in San Bernardino County Center for Dispute Resolution. Judy co-developed a real estate mediation class approved by the California Department of Real Estate for 12 hours of continuing education. The class is sponsored by California State University, San Bernardino. I could say much more, and she has a very lucrative background, and you all have a copy of her agenda of her talk, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it very much, because this is a repeat of a talk she gave at the Toastmasters Club about 6 months ago, and I thought she did a terrific job. So, Judy, I'd like to present you and have you offer us your talk.
Thank you, Jim. Commissioner Feingold, Commissioner Carteret, Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Aguano, Commissioner Bowens, Commissioner Elliott, Commissioner Zelnis, and Commissioner Janis, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. The Southern California Mediation Association is the preeminent professional association in Southern California for individuals providing mediation services or who work in the general field of dispute resolution. As the practice of mediation has infiltrated many areas within our society, the association continues to promote mediation and mediator professionalism through educational conferences, legal updates, and member interaction. We are also dedicated to teaching communication and dispute resolution techniques to our youth through our sponsorship of peer mediation in the middle and high schools. Though I have been a member of this fine association for several years, my presentation today represents my views. Please do not perceive anything I say as coming from the association itself. I thought long and hard about the many facets and many topics of mediation, trying to determine which would be the most appropriate and most useful for this presentation. I finally decided on the different styles and techniques of mediation and mediators, with a brief description of each, placing the most emphasis on a transformative style. Much credit for transformative mediation is given to Robert Bush and Joseph Folger, authors of the book, The Promise of Mediation. Because most people are familiar with family mediation, I feel compelled to point out that court-ordered family mediation is typically the court's method of seeing that the needs of the children are addressed and met. Consequently, the mediator recommends to the court the method of handling family issues. In all other types of mediation, the parties themselves create their own resolution. Mediation is a voluntary process. Even when mandated, the parties decide the type and degree of participation, and they are free to leave at any time. Mediation is confidential to protect the integrity of the process. That which is said in mediation stays in mediation. Confidentiality applies to the parties, their support teams, and the mediator. Mediation is not arbitration. In arbitration, an arbitrator or a panel of arbitrators render a decision to determine who will win and who will lose. You cannot lose in mediation because you would never agree to anything that you don't want to. So therefore, mediation is a win-win situation. The role of the mediator is to assist the parties in identifying the issues, exploring the options, and determining whether or not a mutually acceptable agreement between the parties is possible. The mediator does not make decisions. The mediator is a neutral third party with no bias toward either side. Mediators have many styles. We're all different in personality, background, and design. Typically, we are categorized in one of the following: either directive, evaluative, facilitative, or transformative. Some of us may be all of the above. The nature of the dispute, the personalities of the parties, the expectations of the parties and their attorneys, if they are represented by legal counsel, may be factors in deciding which of these styles is appropriate for their session. Directive mediators may be directing the process and the parties in a manner that controls and structures the content and possibly the outcome. Evaluative mediators will help evaluate the strengths and weaknesses in a position, perhaps reviewing contracts and evidence with the parties, but the mediator never gives legal advice. If the mediator has long time experience in a particular field, such as medicine, insurance, environmental issues, construction, real estate, things like that, or if they have legal background, the parties may have chosen that mediator for that specialized background. In that case, the parties often expect that mediator to help them evaluate their case. Facilitative mediators facilitate communication. Facilitative mediators encourage the parties to tell their story. Often the story will include feelings, facts, and opinions, but there's a great deal of dialogue of a more personal nature that will take place in a facilitative mediation. The mediator works with them to identify the issues and the solutions, and it's rather an informal environment. Transformative mediation, which I would like to spend the most time on here today, is based on the concept that the parties have the power to create their own resolution to their own problems. The transformative mediator does not bring with them a long list of rules and structure to the table. The parties themselves will decide if there will be rules based on their perceptions and their needs. They might say, no interrupting, no yelling, no speaking out of turn. And if that be the case, we can establish any of those as a rule if all parties would agree to it. Usually the mediator will ask who would like to begin, rather than in a more structured process where the mediator will say, okay, why don't you start? We like to ask the parties who feels most comfortable beginning the process. While all mediators should be active listeners and students of body language, the transformative mediator stays in the moment of what the parties are doing and saying. Some people by nature are information gatherers, and I was always one of those kind of people. I want to know who was there, when did it happen, what did you do, and I want to gather all this information. But staying in the moment as a transformative mediator is basing your comments on what they are doing and saying. The parties lead, the mediator follows. As a mediator, I may never know how they got here. And it kind of bothers you a little bit sometimes, but it really doesn't matter whether I know how they got here. The mediation's for the benefit of the parties, and they know how they got here. And if they're speaking directly to each other in the present tense, for me to interrupt to fulfill my needs, to answer some of my questions, is a tremendous distraction to them. Facilitative mediators are constantly listening and watching for clues that support empowerment and recognition shifts between the parties. Mediator participation in discussion is probably going to be very minimal. When there's dialogue that's working, let it happen. The intense listening and watching by the mediator, however, is ever present. Always looking, always watching, always listening for something that's going to make a difference. As a transformative mediator, there are 3 ways that we assist in the process. 1, reframing. Reframing is the act of giving back to someone what you understood them to say. And usually we'll say something like, I think I heard you say, And if I'm wrong, they'll tell me, that's not what I said. And if I'm right, they'll say, yeah, you get it, you understand. The next technique would be summarizing. When the timing is appropriate, not when I feel like it, but when the timing is appropriate, I will summarize what each of them have said to see if I can bring us together at that place. And the third technique is called checking in. Check in with the parties. Things like, how do you think we're doing? Where do you want to go with this? How do you feel about that? What do you think we should do? How do you feel about that offer that's on the table? And you'll get responses from them that way. Always keeping in mind with these questions not to lead the parties to a direction that I want them to go, but to keep them in the here and now where they're at right now. Because if I lead them, it puts the mediator in charge. And remember, the parties lead, the mediator follows. Many of our responses will be tentative responses, such as, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard. And then that gives them the opportunity to speak up. They feel like it's their process when they have control over the process, not just the outcome, but the process as well as the outcome. These three types of mediator responses will be used repeatedly in a session. When communication breaks down, the parties reach impasse, or any other appropriate opportunity. A lot of mediators are not comfortable with this style. The reason is probably fairly obvious. We as the mediator would not be in control. We don't know what they're going to say. We don't know what they're going to do. And sometimes it's a feeling of risk to just let them own the process. Our job is to assist the parties in making empowerment and recognition shifts without pushing them, directing them, or imposing our beliefs or solutions upon them. Let me give you a couple of real short examples. Since mediation is confidential, with the names and the dates and the parties have been changed to protect all of us, I will tell you about a mediation that had gone probably 3 or 4 hours, and there was a generation difference. There was a person 25 with a person 57 in an employment dispute. We went several hours, and finally the young person who had brought the complaint indicated that he was insulted. He was a veteran of Desert Storm. He was a good person and a quality person and resents being treated in this manner. The 57-year-old across the table said, I'm a decorated Vietnam vet. So the look on the face of the young person is indescribable. He stood up, he put his hand out and said, I want to shake your hand. Wow, man, you were in Nam. You guys had it the worst. Everything changed. If you can just picture what that looked like, everything changed. I was pretty much at the point where I thought, well, we're not going to have any agreement today. And so we sat down. We started talking because they were on the same page now. They had something in common, and there was a respect, and there was a shift. There was a recognition of the other party. The next one I was going to tell you about is a neighborhood dispute. The leaves from this large, old tree had been blowing around the neighborhood every fall for several years now, and the neighbors were just about, fed up with the whole thing. And the leaves would be on the front porch, all over the lawn, in the swimming pool, and they wrote this guy letters, they made phone calls, they did all the things they thought were appropriate, and they got no response. Finally, the neighborhood decided that he was being uncooperative and ornery about the whole situation, and they did call for a mediation. When they got into the mediation, it was discovered that the person who owned the property with the tree had received that tree many, many, many years ago when he bought the house as a housewarming gift from his mother, now deceased. the thought of cutting down that tree was just more than he could deal with. So in the spirit of cooperation and neighborly attitude, the neighbors decided they would hire a contractor, carpenter, to make a very nice park-type bench out of the tree and place it on the grass by the sidewalks with a in memory of, tribute to Mom, so that everybody strolling by would have a place to sit down. And the owner of the tree thought that that was a great idea. It isn't always about money. In fact, a lot of times it's not about money. It's about people's needs. Not what they're entitled to, but their needs need to be met. The last one I can think of, there's a lot of them, but the last one I brought today to tell you about is another employment mediation where an employee filed a complaint and brought his legal representative, and they had 35 issues primarily pertaining to some sort of discriminatory practice. We went about 5 hours, and the legal counsel finally decided that we really weren't getting anywhere and we probably should end the session. As I was beginning to write the paper to close out that session, the person who brought the complaint, the employee, put his head in his hands and put his hands on the table and laid down, and I just looked at everybody in the room and could see where they were coming from. Some had their arms folded, some were a little concerned about maybe this man was sick. He laid his head down, and in a real soft voice he said, "I just wish it was over." And I put down my pen and I said, "John, did I understand you to say that you wish it was over?" And he said, "Yeah, I can't sleep. I have a knot in my stomach. I have no quality time with my family. I'm sick of this argument. I'm sick of the dispute. I like this job. I need this job. I just want to resolve these problems." And legal counsel is saying, "Well, there went the settlement," you know, as they're looking at him and saying, "Okay, let's have private caucus." Private caucus is where the mediator meets with each side separately. And in private caucus, we determined that between us, that John needed to have this done. That while there may be things he would be entitled to if he took it all the way, that John was going to be a lot happier if he could resolve it today. And so we went 9 hours on this session, but we did get a resolution that everybody was happy with. They felt good about. It's an amazing and powerful experience to observe that moment of recognition. When I first took the training for this type of mediation, I couldn't understand how you know when it happens. And I can't maybe exactly explain it to you, but you know. You get goosebumps and you have this feeling and you can see that there's a different mood in the room. And then you have the ability to help them to come up with options that can solve this problem. In summation, not all mediators are alike. While all styles have their place in our society, the transformative process provides empowerment and recognition opportunity, enabling the parties to truly resolve their issues, both in feelings and in the agreements. Ongoing relationships such as family, workplace, and community need this style of mediation to maintain and rebuild relationships. I use this style in business disputes as well. Indira Gandhi once said, "You cannot negotiate with a clenched fist." And I believe if the parties have a chance to create an understanding of each other, that we're going to have much more effective negotiations when the time comes. Mediation by the parties, for the parties, gives them the power to create their own solutions. In closing, Kenneth Cloak, well-known author and director of Center for Dispute Resolution, tells us, "At the center of every conflict lies its heart and a spiritual path leading toward transformation and transcendence. Therefore, every conflict has a capacity to ensnare and entrap or liberate and transform us. along with the relationship that created it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Judy, would you be willing to take questions?
Yes, I would,
Anybody
surely.
have questions for a speaker?
I have a question. What typically is the amount, now you said this last one was 9 hours.
Yes.
Is that all in one day, or is it broken into sessions? And my second part of that question is, how typical, or how long is it typical, or is there such a thing, a typical how long is a session that would be typical?
I would say that there's not a real specific answer on that. The more emotional it is, the longer it will take. Community mediations will probably take longer. We're dealing with feelings and we're dealing with a lot of people. However many people we have that are involved in this is going to make a difference. This particular 9-hour session, because we were going to end it after 5 hours, and a lot of people had traveled a long distance, they agreed that they would like to stay the additional time to see if we could resolve it. We do sometimes go more than one day. If somebody has penciled in a certain period of time and has to be somewhere else, then we may have to bring it up another day. Also, it is appropriate to go a second day when the parties are real close to resolution, but they need more information. They need to talk to their accountant, or they need to talk to their attorney, or they need to talk to, their mom or somebody, and then we can reconvene in order to write the agreement, because we don't always have all the information when we're there. We like to, we try to. Business mediations that can be sometimes pretty cut and dried. It's, you fixed my car and it's not running right and I want my money back. If there's not a big story about how it didn't run right and I got in a wreck and then I broke my leg, and it can go on, and then it becomes an emotional issue. But if it's basically a business issue, we can do those rather quickly, and I would say the average business mediation is probably about 3 hours. Yeah.
What's your rate of success?
My rate of success is around 80%. And it is actually, I think one of the reasons our rate of success is so high is because the parties do have control of the outcome and the process, and that gives them a commitment to it. And one of the programs that I work in, one of the workplace programs I work in, we have a 91% success rate in that particular program. And the parties all fill out surveys, and every one of them says, somebody listened to my story. I wanted to tell my story. I actually had a man come in that had been arrested for going into a place of business that he was having a problem with a baseball bat and pounding on things. And the problem was that he went in with a problem and they shined him on. Nobody said, well, let's look at the issue here and see where we're at. And it turned out they were wrong. They were $10,000 worth of wrong. But because he got so frustrated and he just went over the edge. It was like a bad movie.
Judy, would you comment, please, on the benefits of mediation versus litigation? I know, and I apologize to the attorneys in the audience, I'm an attorney, but I'm also a mediator.
Okay. The benefits of mediation, the fact that nobody makes a decision for you. So if you go to arbitration or you go to court, somebody will decide who's going to win, who's going to lose. Typically, you have more control over what takes place in the mediation and the outcome. We can schedule mediations probably much more quickly than you could go to court, because I just had a cancellation for this Wednesday. If somebody called up today and said, could you hear me this Wednesday? I could, because I had a cancellation. Even at that, none of my sessions are more than 3 weeks away, because I try to get them all in as quickly as possible. And expense, it can be less expensive. Early on mediation, a couple of the programs that I work with the State of California Department of Fair Housing Discrimination Program. It's a HUD pilot program. It's a very early on mediation. The purpose is the people call up, say, I want to file a complaint. They fill out the form, they sign their name, and it gets shipped out now to a mediator. It saves a lot of time. It doesn't have to be investigated if it's settled. You don't have to do depositions. You don't have to do discovery. You don't have to do any of those things if we can resolve it early on. A lot of times it's hurt feelings. It's lack of communication. If that's what you think I said, I'm sorry. That isn't what I really meant. So, does that sort of answer your question? Okay.
And as far as economics also,
It's less expensive because we can do it early and we can do it quickly. And it depends on the mediator and it depends on the mediation program you're using. A lot of the courts have very fine no-fee mediation programs. Now, we don't have the ability to go 3 hours and 9 hours in these programs. I work with the DCA, which used to be in the Palm Springs court and is now in the Indio court, and I work for them now in the Banning court. And most of our mediations are real short. They're like 30 minutes, but it's kind of like, all right, guys, we have a chance to work it out if it's something that you all can live with, rather than somebody win and somebody lose. Do you want to try and do that? And we do that a lot. Works a lot of the time. But it's far less expensive because it goes faster. And if you have to be in a mediation for 3 hours, that's a lot less expensive than spending 3 years in court. Right? Okay.
Have any other questions? Commissioner Janis?
Judy, I wish to thank you for taking time out to come here to give us this excellent talk.
Thank you.
And regarding our mutual mentor, Dr. Fred Yount, give him my best.
Okay, I'll do that.
We understand that you are very active in the Southern California Mediation Association. It keeps you quite busy also.
It's a great, great opportunity, and I love mediation. I spent 26 years in the real estate field, and I love mediation because when you go away, you feel like you've helped the parties to accomplish something, and even when they don't settle, most of the time they go away with a better understanding of what the situation is. That monster they thought that is now sitting across the table is just another person just like them, and perhaps not a monster at all. So you do get a different feeling about it. Thank you, Jim. My pleasure. Nice to see you again. Did you know Professor Yount is now the dean of the San Bernardino campus over here on Cook Street?
Yes, he also moved. He has a home here in Palm Springs.
Yes, he does. Really a good guy. So thank you all. I admire the work that you do, and if there's anything I can do to help, please feel free to call. Okay?
One last thing.
Yes.
We'll provide you with the tape of the meeting, and you'll be able to see it aired 1 week from
Thursday. It's on Thursday night at 6
on
o'clock.
Thursday night, Channel 17.
Great. Thank you.
So if you could wait, we'll provide you with
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas,
Thanks,
everybody.
Judy.
Happy
Same
Hanukkah.
to you.
Okay.
And thank you, Commissioner Janis, for inviting the guests. Thank you. It was very informative. Now we have to go back to our business meeting. Approval of the minutes from the November 10th meeting, 2003. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to have them approved?
I motion that we approve the minutes of the November 10th meeting.
A second? Okay, it was seconded by Commissioner Brown. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we're on reports from each commissioner. First up is my report as chairman. I just want to let you know that I want to thank David Reddy. On the agenda for the first council meeting was replacing Mike McCullough, who had to resign because he's now, a city council person. But the council pushed it off. I think it's on tomorrow's agenda or in another week, so we should know what's happening by January. But they weren't sure what to do with that issue just yet. And that's my report. I'll go to the vice chair.
Excuse me, my report is relatively short. Just to let you know, I did complete the Citizens Police Academy and graduated officially last Thursday, although mine was one of the few certificates that was not presented for whatever reason. I thought it was discrimination, but it was not. In any event, it was a wonderful opportunity, and I wholeheartedly recommend that anybody who has the opportunity take advantage of that Citizens Police Academy. It was worthwhile, and you learned so much about what police activities are and how really very, very effective they are. As a result of that, and I mentioned this last time, one of the things that I'm very concerned about had to do with identity theft And I did talk to one of the gentlemen who presented information at one of our sessions, who would be more than willing to, if indeed we elect to do so, have a forum on identity theft. He would be happy to be a part of it. So that was one of the only other thing that I mentioned was, thanks to a thumbs or a heads up call from Commissioner Zellness today, I did contact the Desert Sun to have them at this meeting, if at all possible. And they, while they were not able to do so, they did make comment that if indeed I emailed information with regard to the presentation of the awards and to your presentation, that we indeed would have some recognition in the paper probably on Wednesday. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Carteret. Commissioner Janis, Mediation Committee Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have finally made another arrangement for case 68, and there will be 2 defendants flying down from Salt Lake City in order to attend this, and the complainant has already notified me that he will be present at the session. So with that, I'll be able to give a report at our next meeting.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Janis. Community Relations, Commissioner Carteret, do you have a report?
Very briefly, we excuse me, had an opportunity to meet with a group who was very interested in the Human Rights Commission and what we do. It's a formal group that constitutes about 12 people with whom I met the first part of last month. And we will meet again. They'd like to have more information, and really what they're after is information as to how we serve the community, and indeed if there's anything that we can do to promote ourselves, they would be grateful for it. So I will meet with them again. Originally it was to have been the end of this month, but it's been postponed until January. I've forgotten the date, but the first part of January. And we hope to let them know what we're doing and outline each one of our positions, particularly with regard to what individual responsibilities each of us has.
Okay. And next up is hate crimes. I'm chairman of the Hate Crimes Task Force. In February, we haven't picked a date yet, but the police chief, Gary Gendron, wants to meet again with the gay community, so I am working on a date and a plan with the police chief, and I will let you know what day in February we're going to do that. But it would be our 4th meeting, and it's like a follow-up to the last meeting, to the last forum. And I think it's something that we need, and I'm looking forward to it. Next up is Commissioner Aguano with the Education Forum.
Okay, I have nothing now to say about the Education Forum, although we will have commissioner comments later on after this. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Our student member, do you have any comments? Holly, correct? Because I wasn't introduced. I wasn't at the meet. I missed the meeting that you came to.
Yeah. Hi, I'm a student at Raymond Creed Middle School, principal of Mr. Clarence Nolan. And there is one thing I'd like to say. The drama club is presenting a play called Does Anybody See Me? It's going to be showing at the Annenberg Theater on December 10th and 11th. Adults are $10, seniors are $5, students are $5, students with ID are $4, and children under 10 are $3. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Holly, and welcome.
Now,
Welcome.
there was an interesting article, I think it was today's paper, about that. A full column in the front page of the local section. Yeah. So it should be a very interesting play. Now, these were student-written about student experiences in middle school?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I would recommend people attending. I planned on attending that myself.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Aguano. It sounds interesting. Now, Commissioner comments. Commissioner Aguano, I think
yes,
you have a comment.
I'm eager to talk. I'd like to share my experiences about jury duty. I had jury duty last week, and I had some thoughts about that. And since this is the Human Rights Commission and it has to do with human rights and civil rights, I thought this would be an appropriate venue to discuss this. I want to say, first of all, that paradoxically, my experience was both disappointing and satisfying. I was disappointed that I really didn't get to serve on the jury But it was satisfying that I went through the process from beginning to end, from the first time you get your notification of jury duty to the actual dismissal when they say, adios, we don't want to see you. When you get the thing three months in advance, your first response is, oh no, how am I going to fit this into my busy schedule? And we all go through that. Then the thoughts occurred, well, what am I going to do? Should I ask for a postponement? But there's not a time in my work year that's not busy that I could freely give up a week and not miss it. And I certainly didn't want to do it over vacation time. So I thought, third option, let me roll the dice. They say if you don't have to report right away, you call in, and if they don't need you that day, you call in again, etc. And I've gone through that in the past, and I've been excused, never having to set foot in court in Indio. Unfortunately or fortunately, I got called down, and I had to report not on the first day, but on the second day. And then my thoughts changed, my patterns changed. Why not? Let me take advantage of this. Let me do my civic duty. We all heard the joke about people trying to get out of jury duty, and someone once said, why would anybody want to be judged by 12 people who weren't smart enough to get out of jury duty? Let me lay that myth to rest. There are a lot of intelligent people there. There are hundreds of people in the jury room, and when you get called and you're when you sit in the court and you go through the voir dire and people are introduced and they tell about themselves and what they do, it's an interesting cross-section of very successful, very talented, and very intelligent people who are selected for our jury. One of the things they did at the pre-jury, when you're in the big room, is they show the video and they talk to people who actually served on jury duty, and they talk very interestingly about the bonding that occurs when you sit on the jury. And it's true, there is a camaraderie there that's really amazing, because you're involved in the halls of justice. You are sitting there, you're in the presence of a judge, a robed judge, you're in the presence of other people, you're in the presence of lawyers, and there is this attitude that is conveyed. And you take it seriously, and you talk to the people, and there is bonding that goes on in just a brief few minutes that you sit when you're on break waiting to go back into the jury or into the court. Discussions occur, and I could see how people who actually serve on the case can really bond. They say that friendships are made when you sit on the jury, lifelong friendships with fellow jurors. I could see that. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to experience that. So let me tell you a little bit about the case. The case has been settled. It was a DUI, a drunk driving, a criminal case, and the defense attorney, his line of questioning for jurors, without giving away any of the facts of the case, was he wanted to know if people would believe a police officer's word over a private citizen's word, and would you weigh the testimony of a police officer more heavily than a private citizen. I'm going to get to that in a minute. The interesting thing was that the judge did recognize how inconvenient it would be for people to give up their time. Now, this was a short 3-day case, but other cases going on at the time, one was a murder case, which was probably a 3 or 4 month case. One was a rape case, which they predicted would end December 24th. So there were some intense cases. This one was a short case. And you could tell that there were people who really did not want to be there. You could tell by their body language and by what they had to say. And the judge was very good. Judge Andy Cribbs, Graham A. Cribbs, he did a great job of talking to the people, putting them at ease, and letting them know in a very gentle way what their civic duty was. And yet he was a no-nonsense judge at the same time. It was very impressive of what he did. He addressed their inconvenience, and the court system tries very hard not to inconvenience. In the past, you used to go there every day, whether you were called or not, and sit there for 5 days and then dismiss. Now they have the telephone system, and then when they get you down there, usually people are dismissed by 10:30 in the morning. And the court system really tried hard to move swiftly. So now we're sitting in the room, and before anybody is called up to the jury box, they do it in shifts. They fill out 18 seats, and they question those people, and then they remove some of the people, and they fill those seats in, and it's a process of attrition until they get 12 plus 1. The defense attorney spoke of the constitutional rights. He recognized everybody doesn't want to be there, but he put his arm around his client and says, he may be guilty, you may find him guilty, you may find him innocent, but this is his constitutional right to a fair hearing. And you would want to be accorded the same guarantee that the people who are going to sit in judgment of you would take this seriously. And then he says, and what we're doing here is a quest for truth. Then the judge reiterated that statement. Yes, 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 this is a quest for truth. Now, I'm going to come back to that later because that's not my impression of what our legal system does. I'll talk about that in a moment. But the line of questioning that they asked each juror was, do you know any police? Do you have any prejudices? Can you put those prejudices aside? And would you give a cop's testimony more weight than a private citizen? Now, those are significant questions, and the thinking person would go through, and I'm sure everybody, because they would make arguments about, isn't it possible that a cop being a normal person would tend to lie, blah, 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 and they would move down like that. Now, I wasn't interviewed that first day, so I had the whole night to think about my answer, and I did. I took it seriously, and I thought about my response. And at that point, I really wanted to serve. I really did. I really do. I've been rejected now from 3 juries in my adult lifehood, and I want to serve on the jury. I wanted to present a balanced answer to those questions. And I knew that some of my answers would not be pleasing or acceptable to possibly both the defense and the prosecution. So they asked the first question, do you know any police? So I raised my hand, the judge recognized me, and I said, Your Honor, I'm a sergeant, Palm Springs Mounted Police Search and Rescue. I'm also a level 2 reserve officer, and I have worked DUI checkpoints with the police. Then the judge asked, well, do you have any prejudices about this? And I wanted to be fair to the defense attorney, and I said, well, Your Honor, I understand that, yes, cops do lie, but I've also witnessed suspects trying to frustrate a police officer who was trying to administer a field sobriety test. Well, the judge stopped me right there and he said, I'm sure that the lawyers are going to have plenty of questions to ask you about that. And it was finished. It went on. I was cut off after that. It came to the questioning. The prosecutor probably saw me as a very good juror, and so she said I was okay, but the defense attorney dismissed me out of hand. Your Honor, save him a trip to the box. We don't want him. I think that's a direct quote, although I may be embellishing that. Now, I was disappointed in that because I wanted to answer the last 2 questions. Can you put those prejudices aside, and would you give a cop more testimony? I think had I been given the opportunity to let them know that I'm on the Human Rights Commission, that might have carried some weight with the defense attorney. Can I put my prejudices aside? I look to my profession as a school administrator, and frequently I'm put in that position when I'm dealing with, for instance, disciplining a student who is chronically a troublemaker. I have to put my prejudices aside and weigh the evidence based on that. Will I give cop testimonies, the cop's testimony, more weight? Well, I look at it again from my professional position. If I had a dispute, a he said, she said between a teacher and a student, I would overwhelmingly always side with the teacher because the teacher is the professional, unless there was compelling evidence to the contrary. Then I would have no problem, as indeed I have done this many times, tell that teacher, hey, you screwed up, the kid's right, and I would do the same thing on the jury. If the officer screwed up, then I would vote not guilty. I didn't have a chance to talk about those things. I want to address the issue of the quest for truth. And I may be wrong. If anybody disagrees, this may be a great topic for discussion as a Human Rights Commission. I don't believe our judicial system seeks out the truth. I've heard that the judicial system in America being described as adversarial. It's not a common quest for truth. The defense does not defend the truth. What the defense does, in my opinion, is defends the constitutional rights and safeguards, sometimes at the expense of the truth. Now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we are commissioners on the Human Rights Commission. I am a strong believer in the Bill of Rights, and I understand that sometimes safeguarding our constitutional rights may be more important than the quest for truth. For instance, just to give you an obvious example, I would never condone torture to elicit a truthful statement. I don't think any of us would. So the quest for truth takes a back seat to our constitutional rights. And I do want to participate, and if anybody's out there, Judge, if you're listening to me now, defense attorneys, remember me. I would like to serve on a jury, and I think I can give a fair and balanced decision. That's all I have to say about that.
Commissioner Aguano, we think you're more than okay, so you don't have to worry about that. I think we should make a copy of this little presentation you just gave, and the next time you have jury duty, just take the tape with you, put it on, and you'll get on that jury.
There we go.
That was great.
I have a comment.
Thank you. Other comments?
I have a comment. The defense thanks and excuses Mr. Aguana.
Do we have any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Zelnus?
I have a couple of things. My usual monthly comment about PFLAG, of course. This month, the third Sunday, will be the PFLAG meeting, which is the 21st. It will begin at the usual time and place, 2:30 at the Cathedral City Public Library Community Room, but will adjourn shortly after that for a holiday potluck, which will be held at the Palm Regency Condominium Meeting Room. If anyone would like more information, they can call the PFLAG information number at area code 760-202-4430. That's 202-4430. Or you can contact through the website at www.pflag.com. I also wanted to talk for a minute about having attended last week's City Council meeting last Wednesday, the first meeting here of our new City Council. And as Bill mentioned, our vacancy created by Mike McCullough moving into the council role was one of the items on the agenda that was deferred. One of the things that struck me as interesting, and I don't know, maybe it's a warning to all of us or a heads up, because there was some brief comment among the council and the mayor about looking at boards and commissions, and with the various talk that we heard in the course of the campaigns during this recent election was around accountability. I even heard you talk about accountability, Phil. And the accountability in city government extends beyond City Hall and city employees in really looking at the accountability of boards and commissions. What are boards and commissions about? What are they doing? And looking personally here at the Human Rights Commission, it would not surprise me at all. In fact, I would be surprised if we didn't get some questions, some inquiries about what are our goals, what are our objectives for this fiscal year, how are we doing in achieving them, and looking at specific things. Richard, as you mentioned earlier, providing information to the community relations group about what each of us is doing, what each of our responsibilities is. And I think, it goes beyond my sitting here talking about PFLAG and reminders of meetings or talking about what PFLAG is doing, and really being active in some form. And again, I look at myself and think, I have been the Commission's representative on the Homeless Task Force, and even while there hasn't been a lot of activity of that group, particularly after I don't want to say the demise, but the changes in the proposals and the plans for the Vistacino Sunrise project, it really is incumbent upon me to get something going on the homeless task force and represent this commission in that forum, and then come back here on a monthly basis when we have our meetings to tell you what that group is doing, and also solicit your support, your participation in those kinds of events or efforts that, in this case, the homeless task force is doing. So I guess I'm almost saying let us all be forewarned that we will probably, and I suspect through you, Bill, will be asked for specific information about the Human Rights Commission beyond our mission statement. And what we espouse in our mission statement, with our two primary responsibilities being education and mediation. We certainly have those covered, but there are lots of others of us sitting up at this panel with other things that we can be doing and contributing to the commission, and I suspect we'll be held accountable for those things, particularly with this new mayor and council.
Thank you, Commissioner Zellness.
Thanks.
I'll just add one comment, because I watched that meeting. It would behoove the new council people to watch the boards and commissions meetings. Just because they have a lack of knowledge doesn't mean we're not doing our job. Any other comments? Okay, we'll close that portion. We'll go to staff reports. Lee?
The staff liaison's office has moved. It is now, as you come in the main door, take the immediate left, and it's the first door on the left. No longer just right around the corner here.
Do you have a window?
Yes, I do, and it opens.
Good. Oh, good. Good. Okay, that was very important. We want Lee to be happy. That's good. Okay, now we have items for discussion, and it's all about the forums again. So we have to turn to our next forum date is going to be January 22nd, I believe. And Commissioner Elliott, that's the forum that you would promise to put on. How do we look for that?
I spoke to Gary Winkle-Smith, who is a civil rights attorney, about the possibility of his coming and speaking at that forum. He has two huge civil rights cases on schedule in January. However, if we would accept a tentative acceptance on his behalf, if he doesn't start trial, he'd be happy to come and address the forum. And I thought maybe as a backup to that, we could talk about some of the issues that Joe raised about, as citizens, what's happening to our constitutional rights, especially under the Patriot Act. And I could get a copy of the current Patriot Act for all of the council members, and we could use that as a backup.
This is going to be about the current Patriot Act or Patriot Act 2?
Patriot Act 2,
The one that's coming up?
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
the new Patriot Act.
Bill, what date did you say that was?
January 22nd.
Okay. And that would be an evening forum, 6 p.m.
Right, right. And then the forum after that is the one that you said, March 25th, you would do identity theft. Correct, Joe?
March 25th, identity theft, correct.
Right. Now, Pam, do you need help getting this forum together? Or are you experienced at this?
If Mr. Smith does come, he's a very, very accomplished litigator and speaker. I don't think we'd have any problems keeping the forum active for the 2 hours. But if someone does have someone in mind who's actively involved in constitutional issues and civil rights, it might be nice to have a second speaker.
Okay. Well, I suggest if anybody has ideas to help Pam, just send me an email and we'll work together. And I have to get your correct email after this meeting before I forget, because it bounced back at me. Okay. Anybody else? So it looks like we will have a forum on January 22nd. Our next business meeting would be January the 12th. And then March 25th, Joe, you're all set?
Well, I'm not all set,
No, but I mean, that's
certainly
good.
will be, yes.
Okay, so I think that covers, unless anybody wants to bring up any new ideas they have for, which would be the last forum, May 27th, although we do have open dates that we can always do other forums in. Commissioner Bowens? Okay, you're a happy camper. Does that end this discussion on the forums? We're all set? So before I turn to Commissioner Janis, who always helps me close the meeting, I want to make sure we wish all the citizens and everybody here Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Our next meeting will be January the 12th. And Commissioner Janis, do you have a message for me?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I really enjoyed this assignment for this commission by saying, I move that we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.